Are you planning a trip to Italy? Well, today, stay tuned, because we're going to give you 15 things that you need to know before taking your trip. So you'll be prepared, and it'll make your trip much more authentic. Andrea and I live in Italy.
I was actually born in Italy,
right,
and raised in Italy.
Exactly. And we travel all around the country all the time. And for this reason, we want to share our Italian knowledge with you so you too can have a true Italian experience
on your trip.
Exactly.
Stay tuned.
Hi everyone, I'm Rick.
And I'm Andrea. And like Rick said, today we'll give you 15 tips to make your trip to Italy even more authentic. But first, if you like travel-related videos, now is a great time to hit the subscribe button down below so you never miss any future videos.
Yeah, actually, if you really like this video, maybe consider sharing it on social media because your friends might thank you for it.
For sure. Okay, so let's begin with tip number 15. Consider visiting some less popular areas. When you think about visiting Italy, everyone immediately thinks about Venice, Rome, Florence, or maybe the Amalfi Coast. If there's enough time, exactly. Those places are amazing and you should visit them for sure on your trip. However, you should also consider adding one or two less popular areas in Italy that tourists do not go to. Every city, town in Italy is rich in unique history, architecture, and great food.
Yes.
So consider taking a side trip to some of less popular cities or town, and you will experience the authentic Italian lifestyle. For example, if you are traveling from Florence to Venice, consider spending a day or two in the stunning city of Bologna. There you will discover an amazing city center and some of the best food that Italy has to offer.
Right, and of course you might even run into us having a glass of wine or having some food or whichever.
Yeah, exactly. If you're traveling from Venice to Milan, why not stop in Lake and visit the Lake Garden?
That is actually a really good question because, we're actually building a vacation rental, a short-term rental condo, and in case you'd like to visit, let us know.
Now, Lake Garden is not as popular as Lake Como, but let us assure you that you will be amazed by its beauty and scenery. If you want to know more about this less-known place in Italy, take a look at the video up here.
Okay, so moving on to our tip number 14, and we've got avoid the peak of summer. Okay, so most tourists come to Italy in June, July, and August, but those are not the best months to come. In fact, during those months, the cities are packed. The prices are at the highest, and it's really difficult to find availability for museums and attractions. And by the way, if you do come to Italy, always buy your attraction tickets in advance if you want to skip the long lines at the ticket office. So you can scan this QR code if you're watching it on TV. Otherwise, we'll leave a link in the description for all of the most common attractions to visit in Italy. Also, in the peak of summer, temperatures can be really hot. Today, it's July 31st, and outside it's 37 degrees Celsius, or nearly 100 Fahrenheit. And if you don't like the sweltering heat, consider visiting Italy in early spring or late fall, like May and October, are wonderful months to visit. And during those periods, temperatures can be much better, they're much cooler. Cities are not as busy, and prices are more reasonable.
So let's explore number 13. On our list of things to know before coming to Italy. And we talk about food is not the same all over Italy. So we get it. If you are coming to Italy and you maybe think that going to have pizza, pasta carbonara, and pasta pesto, and pasta bolognese everywhere, well, let us tell you that you would be very disappointed.
You can, but...
You can, but you will be not very happy. One very key thing to keep in mind is that when eating in Italy, the food is very regional. Something that is very popular in one area might not even exist somewhere else. For example, pasta carbonara is a typical dish of Rome. So if you are outside Rome, it might not be as good or as authentic, or worse, could be from a box.
Yeah.
So we recommend you doing some little research before your visit and check the speciality of the area you're going to visit and try the typical food. This will ensure you have the best food that Italy has to offer and the most authentic. Also keep in mind that the Italian food that you are used to eating back at home is not even exist, and you will not even find it here in Italy.
Garlic bread, chicken piccata.
Spaghetti with meatballs are not authentic Italian food.
No.
And if you see restaurants serving those dishes, well, you can be sure that it's a tourist restaurant.
Right, and it's not that tourist restaurants are bad, it's just you're not going to have a good,
It's not authentic.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to pizza, I realize that it's the most common and perhaps the most loved food on earth. If you want the true authentic pizza, you should visit Naples, the birthplace of pizza. Everywhere else in Italy has its own variation on pizza that is very often different from the one you'll get in Naples. It's not, I'm not going to say this is worse, but
Just different.
Just different. Also, one very important thing to remember when you want to have pizza, no matter where you are in Italy, is to go to a pizzeria that has a pizza oven that you can see.
Yes, and if you can't, just ask for it, right?
Yeah, and if you don't see the pizza oven, stay away, because you will not be eating, you will be eating frozen pizza.
Exactly.
Most likely.
Right, so now it's time to move on to our tip number 12 on our things to know before coming to Italy, and that's dinner doesn't happen before 7:30, so get it out of your mind. In Italy, dinner time is between 7:30 and 9:30 p.m., and it varies a lot based on where you are. For instance, in the north of the country, 7:30 to 8 is very common, while in the south, well, dinner can start much later, even as late as 10 o'clock. Now, regardless, restaurants are usually closed before 7:30. Now, if you do see a restaurant serving dinner at 5 p.m., you can be sure that they're catering to tourists, and it probably won't be the most authentic Italian restaurant. Now, if you get a little hungry around 6 p.m. like I do, go for an aperitivo, and it's a totally normal Italian tradition. It's kind of like the American version of happy hour, and if you want to know more about aperitivo, check out this video up here.
Absolutely. Moving on to our tip number 11 on our list of things to know before coming to Italy, and we talk about be careful walking on the roads.
Yes.
Yeah. When you're exploring Italy, you will walk around a lot. For this reason, we want to make sure that you are careful. First, some of the streets in Italy are hundreds of years old and very uneven. Most of the time have cobblestones. For this reason, we recommend you that you are careful and not to fall and hurt yourself. We mentioned before in several videos that wearing comfortable shoes is a simple thing that allows you to walk safely and better, actually.
Yeah, exactly. As you said, the streets are often uneven. Cobblestones are thousands of years old, thousands sometimes.
Yeah, and they're slippery sometimes.
Yeah, and all of that can mean problems, right?
Yeah. So keep the flip-flops and sandals for the beach. And high heels, don't recommend it.
Have you ever tried high heels?
No, I haven't. Another thing to consider is crossing the street when you are not in the pedestrian-only area. Pay attention to the traffic. Not every driver respects the pedestrian crossing, especially scooters and motorbikes and bicycles. So pay a lot of attention when you cross. In high traffic areas, we recommend you cross at the traffic lights to be safe. Lastly, even when you walk in a pedestrian-only area, pay attention to electric scooters and bicycles, especially the food delivery ones.
Yeah, because they usually zip around really fast. They don't pay any attention to pedestrians.
Yeah, very dangerous.
Okay, so time to move on to our tip number 10 of our 15 things to know before visiting Italy. And we'll talk about drinking in public, right?
Yes.
So in Italy, it's legal to drink alcohol while walking on the street, in public parks, or even at the beach. In fact, wine is a huge part of Italian culture, as you know because you watch this show, right? Italians love to sit around with friends and sip a glass of wine or an Aperol Spritz, but the key is moderation. In fact, being drunk in public is considered really bad manners in Italy, and you can also be fined between 51 euros and 309 euros. So do enjoy a glass of wine with your friends or two, but be careful not to exceed your limit.
Absolutely. Now let's see tip number 9 of our list of things to know before visiting Italy. And it is, not everyone speaks English.
Say it ain't so.
This is particularly true if you're visiting more rural area of Italy or if you're interacting with older people. These days, most of the younger generation speaks English to some degrees. Also, in touristy area, almost everyone speaks English, enough to understand you and go around. Now, Italian will be very appreciative if you try at least to speak a few words of Italian. Here are a few words for you to get around, and we'll leave a link in the description below for a downloadable list of Italian words to get you through your trip.
Exactly.
Or you can use your Google Translate on your phone.
So how about I start?
Sure.
How about we start with ciao, right?
Yes. Ciao means hello, and is very informal, and is good when you talk about person that are your same age or younger.
Yep.
If you're talking to an older person, you say buongiorno or buonasera, which means good day or good evening. Another word to know is per favore, which is mean please, and grazie is thank you.
Oh, and dove il bagno, per favore? That means where is the bathroom, please?
Another one is il conto per favore, which is the bill, please. Un caffè per favore means I would love a coffee, please. And vorrei dell'acqua per favore means I would love some water, please.
Yeah, you see, you got the per favore. Just per favore everything and everything will be fine.
Exactly.
Okay, so moving on to our number 8 on our things to know before visiting Italy, and that's pack smart. One thing to remember when traveling to Italy is that you need to pack smart. Don't take big bulky bags because chances are you're going to need to carry them up or down some flights of stairs, on trains or something. And if you book hotels in the city center, most of the Italian cities, remember, they'll probably be, or at least the hotels, they're going to be in buildings that are 200 to 300 years old, and many of the times they're going to have very small elevators that won't allow you to fit big bulky suitcases, and sometimes they even have staircases that you need to climb. Another thing to consider are the trains. If you're going to travel by train between cities, keep in mind that you will have to lift your bag up and down the train on your own. So avoid those big bulky bags. Bottom line, keep to the essentials and avoid overpacking. By the way, check this video up here for a guide on how to pack.
Let's explore our tip number 7 of 15 things to know before traveling to Italy, and let's talk about cold air and cold water is bad for you.
What?
Yeah, Italians are very afraid of cold draft and cold in general.
Yeah, cold anything.
Yeah, they truly believe that cold air will make you sick and give you a sore neck, or cervicale, how they say, or get sick. For this reason, they only use AC if it's really, really hot outside, and even then, it's often the lowest possible setting. For this reason, when you book an hotel, you have to make sure that it has air conditioning, and most importantly, that it's turned on.
And that you can actually set the temperature yourself. Remember that time my mom came at the end of May? It was 35 degrees Celsius outside, and the air conditioning was not turned on in the hotel, because it wasn't summer yet.
Also, it is not unusual to open a taxi when it's 40 degrees outside and the car has the AC off. Just ask the driver to turn it on. Italians are also afraid of cold drinks. They believe that they will give you an upset stomach or bad digestion. For this reason, you will not find more than 1 or 2 ice cubes in a drink, or none actually.
Usually none.
Yeah, except maybe for an Aperol Spritz, that's a kind of changing. In any event, if you want lots of ice, just ask for molto ghiaccio per favore, meaning a lot of ice. Thank you, please.
Yeah, when you order it.
Yeah. Even then, you might have 3 ice cubes.
Okay, so moving on to our tip number 6 of 15 things to know when you visit Italy, and that's maybe you want to reconsider driving in Italy. So there are some areas of Italy that can only be reached by car or by an organized tour. For example, if you want to see the Tuscany countryside, you'll need to rent a car if you don't want to take a bus tour. And by the way, here's a QR code for some really good tours of Tuscany from Florence. Actually, if you're wanting to go tour Tuscany and go wine tasting, we highly recommend taking a bus tour because drinking and driving laws are much stricter in Italy than they are in the United States, and it's not just It's not worth the risk, right?
No.
Now, driving in Italy is not that difficult and is totally doable, but there's things that you need to know before deciding to rent a car. First, we strongly recommend you not to drive on the Amalfi Coast. Actually, I'd say Rome or anywhere south, just don't do it. The roads there are often very narrow and they're windy with a lot of traffic. And for the same reason, don't go to Lake Como by car. The roads are way too small. We also wouldn't recommend driving in the big cities for a few reasons. So one, again, traffic. The second is lack of parking. And third is the infamous ZTL, or the limited traffic zone. The ZTL are areas of the city where only residents and taxis can drive, and the fines for driving there are quite steep. And you won't find out if you got a ticket for months and maybe even years later, and by that time there's going to be a ton of penalties and interest to pay, so just don't do it. By the way, if you want to know more about driving in Italy, if you really want to try it, check this video. Now, our last suggestion is, if you rent a car in Italy, is to rent a very small car because, as we said earlier, most of the cities have narrow roads and limited parking. And make sure to rent an automatic car because most cars in Italy are still
Standard.
manual.
Okay, now it's time to explore our tip number 5 of our 15 things to know before visiting Italy, and it is buy your train tickets in advance. If you're planning on taking a train in Italy, we strongly recommend you to book your ticket in advance. In fact, lines at the ticket office at the station can be really long, and you might waste a ton of time waiting in line to buy your tickets. Also, high-speed trains are usually cheaper if bought 2 or 3 months in advance. By the way, here's a QR code to book inexpensive train tickets in Italy and in English.
Yes, exactly. And you can scan it with your phone, or you can check the link in the description, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so moving on to our tip number 4 on our list of 15 things to know before traveling to Italy. And we'll talk about the bill at a restaurant, right?
Yeah.
So service at restaurants in Italy is way different from service in North America. Here, people eating at restaurants don't like to be disturbed by waiters constantly asking them, how is the food, or any other questions, right? And this is very different from back in the States or Canada where, the waiters introduce themselves. Hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm going to be taking care of you today. And then how many drinks would you like to have? And so on. No. Here in Italy, the waiter will usually come around about 1 to 2 minutes after you've taken your seat, and he's going to take your entire order. Now, if you aren't ready yet, no problem, just ask for a little more time. Then things are going to start to come to the table. Now, if you need something else during your dinner service, no problem, just flag the waiter and say, "Scusi," and the waiter will come. But again, don't expect the waiter to proactively come around, because this would be considered rude, very, very rude, right? Another thing that's considered really rude for a waiter is to bring the bill without the customer asking.
Absolutely.
Italians would think the restaurant's trying to kick you out, right? So if you want the bill, again, just il conto per favore. Or even better if you say il conto e il pos per favore. And that means, can I have the bill and the machine to charge my card? And don't even think about asking to split the bill. If you got a glass of wine and a bowl of pasta and you had a beer and a pizza, restaurants in Italy are not going to try and figure out who got what, so forget it. The common thing to do, though, is to split the bill evenly. So if the bill was 100 euros and you're 4 people, well, the restaurant will be happy to charge you 25 euros
per person.
a testa. And of course, the tip. The tip deserves its own video in Italy. And luckily, we created one for you up here.
We are getting close to the end of the video, and we'll explore our tip number 3 of the 15 things to know before coming to Italy. And it is, early bird gets the worms.
Yes.
Yes. If you're visiting Rome, Venice, or Florence, we strongly recommend you to go out and explore the city very early in the morning. and maybe 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. That way you will be able to avoid the big crowds and in the summer to avoid the heat. Also, it is nice to go out and experience late at night when the streets are quiet. This is particularly important in Venice, when at night lights reflecting in the canals, making the view very romantic. Now, you might be wondering what to do during the day. Well, it's hot out, why just go inside and do indoor activity like museum or castles or palaces, etc. They're usually helpful with air conditioning. They will keep you comfortable.
Hopefully, right?
Hopefully.
Okay, so moving on to our tip number 2 on our list of things to know before visiting Italy. And we want to talk about something very weird that you might not be aware of, and that's the city tax. So when you visit a hotel in Italy, you may be surprised that they're going to ask you for some cash at the checkout. And don't worry, it is not a scam. This is very strange, and I've only ever seen this in Italy, having traveled all over the world. Hotels here will often charge you a city tax on top of the bill. And this tax is going to be different from city to city, as is the method of payment. Because some cities will have a modern approach and will allow the hotels to, charge the tax by credit card, imagine, or even prepay the tax at the time of booking, imagine. But some cities will require the hotel to charge you in cash at the time you check out. And that applies even if you book hotels on, Expedia or Booking.com. At the end, you might have to pay a few euros per person in cash. So for that reason, we recommend you to bring a few euros with you when you check out of the hotel.
Absolutely. So now it's time to explore our tip number 1 of our 15 things to know before visiting Italy. And the tip is about saving some money. A little money. Or a lot of money, depending on where you are. And it is, coffee is cheaper at the bar. If you want to have an espresso in Italy, you need to know that if you have it at the bar, it will cost you between €1 and €1.50, while a cappuccino usually between €2 and €2.50.
No matter how fancy.
No matter how fancy the restaurant is. But if you sit at a table, you might be charged a servizio, and this can be quite steep, especially if you decide to sit in a famous area like Piazza San Marco in Venice or the Piazzetta in Capri. You can pay 10 times the price of the coffee just for the servizio. So if you want to enjoy a nice espresso at a historic Caffè Floriano in Venice, for example, just go to the bar and you won't overpay.
No, exactly. And that's what Italians do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Although I don't know that I've seen a lot of Italians at Cafe Florian, but who knows, right? And if anyone asks you how you know this stuff,
tell them you subscribe to Travel Addicts Live.
Well, folks, this is what we have for you today. We hope you've enjoyed our video and learned something that'll make your trip just a little bit better and more authentic. As usual, if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below because, we love to hear from you and answer all of your questions.
Of course, if you see us around, please come and say hi. We love to meet you all. In the meantime, we'll see you on our next video.
Ciao!